Hey everybody, it's Alex Miller at Caffeine here. You may have heard Zoom is having a rough week. Less important is they're making everyone go back to the office, which I just had to point out as being funny before I move on to the real meat and potatoes. There's been a lot of discussion of a change to their privacy policy, which actually happened in March, I believe, and people are just now noticing and getting upset. This change says that you can use your data, whatever that means, for training AI models. The whatever that means part, it's actually pretty important. I'll get into in a minute. Like, what exactly is this data? Is it your chat? Is it your video? I'm gonna just review the basic facts and then maybe get into, well, what is the danger here? And maybe there's a couple layers of different kinds of danger. So here goes. So first off, Zoom, they're a video conferencing service that became very famous during the pandemic. You're essentially sending them lots of video and audio of yourself every time you take a call to someone. They have a function that a lot of people like to use where you can record your calls, so they have a lot of video of you. In our current moment, I talk about this with a lot of people. There's tremendous demand for data on what people at big companies are doing at work for training different kinds of AI widgets. I think Zoom is a really interesting case because they actually have a bunch of different kinds of data on you. And from a privacy standpoint, what can be bad about using this for AI? Like, why does it matter? What's the nightmare scenario? So I'm going to talk about two layers. There's two layers of risk, I think. There's what could directly go wrong from your data being cooked into the sauce of an AI model. The nightmare scenarios are pretty interesting and scary. I think they're pretty unlikely. There's also a much more prosaic story about, well, if they're keeping this data around to train it, they're going to be storing it for a longish, forever kind of time. They're going to be letting a lot of people internally tinker with it and see it. And that just carries a lot of vanilla cybersecurity risks that eventually they could do something stupid and lose it. And then it's going to be pretty sensitive data if it's lost wholesale. And it's a very interesting contrast with the first bullet point. So, first, what's a nightmare scenario of you're cooking your data into an AI model? So imagine as like an official thing about your meeting at work, you put some particular kind of notes in the comments. The notes have a standard format about like this is the date and we had this meeting and this is what happened in the meeting. And maybe what happens in your meetings is sensitive and not everybody's supposed to know about it. And then let's imagine they cooked this into a chat GPT like LLM model that you can talk to in the chat. If everybody's not careful, a really genius prompt engineer that knew about your kind of bureaucratic practice of how you put stuff in the chat about your meeting, maybe they could query that chat just right and it would start regurgitating specific stuff you'd talk about in meetings. I really don't think this is terribly likely in practice, but it's certainly possible. And that's as bad as things can get, that people can just look up what you're talking about in your sensitive meeting. You could do similar things with video, although I think it would be a lot harder and would be a lot less realistic. Same for audio. A historical example of something like this actually happening, albeit in a very different technological low, is in World War II. It was a great benefit to the Allies that they broke the German Enigma code. And I think part of the story about why this was possible, really huge organizations, I think militaries being the ultimate example, love this to put bureaucratic boilerplate at the top of documents. So a lot of the German communiques had a standardized blurb at the top about who's writing to whom and what about. And the Allies knew about these standardized blurbs. And if you have some guess at what you're trying to crack, it can be a lot easier. So this is a story from a whole other universe, but if somebody sophisticated is trying to get you in trouble, these things actually matter. So risks of being cooked into the model, they're low, but they're pretty scary. Moving on. Okay, so they want to train AI on your data. They're keeping your data and they're giving different people in different parts of the corporation permission to do stuff with it. Probably means they might want to retain it semi-forever if they're looking at like a data asset and they have liberty to retain it semi-forever. And one danger is that this data could just get lost in a cyber attack. These things happen all the time. OpenAI's already been cyber attacked. This is super sensitive data on you. It's got your face. It's all this stuff about where you work. There's all kinds of stuff about what you're doing at work if it's sensitive. So that's a real nightmare scenario. And going back to data being around forever, I think it's really understated. Even if you trust Zoom now, or you trust whoever the next guy is, or just whoever you trust right now, it might be true 10 years from now they've still got that data and they've been bought and sold and maybe mismanaged by 5 or 10 private equity companies, and the guy that knew what to do with that data, knew where it was, quit, and just everything's a mess, and they're not doing a good job. They're not trustworthy anymore. But it's the same data that they can still lose with the same consequences. And on the long arc of time, data has this kind of entropy quality where it kind of goes everywhere it can go, and it will eventually leak out if not enough energy is put towards preventing it leaking out. And it's just bad news. And AI, saying you're going to use something to train AI, is also a statement about, yeah, we're keeping this data for a long time and we think it's valuable and we're going to treat it like a business asset. And that potentially could be the seed of big problems down the road. So both these stories about, well, what's the probability of something bad happening? Pretty low. What are the consequences? I don't know, like pretty bad. They're pretty bad if every sensitive thing you do at work is on video and then someone's got an AI project about it somewhere that you don't know about. So this is a good story to watch. If you've watched this far, please like or subscribe or whatever venue you're on will allow you to do in terms of engaging. I really appreciate the feedback, and it helps the algo show the video to people that might want to see it.